Have you ever stood in your backyard as a kid, shovel in hand, just wondering, can you actually dig to the other side of the Earth? Like, what is actually down there at the very center of our planet? It's a classic childhood question, right? Well, back in the 1970s, a team of Soviet scientists decided to stop wondering and literally just try it. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're looking at one of the most absolutely audacious scientific projects in human history.
We're talking about the journey to the center, the Kola Superdeep Borehole. This was a massive Soviet initiative to conquer the deep underground. And let me tell you, the story of what they found and what ultimately stopped them in their tracks is completely fascinating. Okay, let's dive into this. The year is 1970. America has just absolutely shocked the world by successfully putting humans on the moon. So the space race effectively won. But some Soviet scientists thought, all right, they conquered the heavens above, so we're going to conquer the world below. They wanted to know exactly what was at the center of the Earth. It was an all-out underground race to basically match the achievements of the space age.
And the scale of their ambition here was just staggering. As a quick refresher, the Earth is divided into three main structural layers. You've got the solid crust on the very top, the massive mantle in the middle, and the core right down at the center. The Soviet plan was simple, but incredibly bold. They were going to drill as far down as mechanically possible to move past, theoretical guesswork and see the actual physical makeup of the Earth with their own eyes.
And so, this absolute mammoth of a task officially kicked off. On May 24th, 1970, on the super remote Kola Peninsula, they started digging. They brought in an Uralmash 4E drilling rig, which is the kind usually used for extracting oil and gas, and they started boring a tiny 9-inch wide hole into the solid rock. Just 9 inches, and the ultimate goal? To literally reach the center of the Earth.
Which brings us to our next part, pushing the limits, the brutal descent. Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds, because this is where brilliant theoretical plans crashed headfirst into brutal physical reality. By the time they hit 7,000 meters, that initial rig just wasn't cutting it, so they upgraded to the massive Uralmash 15,000 technology, and it was not smooth sailing. In 1984, a huge disaster hit. The extreme temperatures and pressure actually snapped the drill string, leaving the pipes hopelessly trapped down in the hole. But no way were they quitting. Since the rig itself was still functional, they literally just branched off from the main hole and kept going, pushing forward until drilling finally officially halted in 1992, before being completely sealed off for good in 2008.
But right before they finally stopped, they reached a staggering depth. By 1989, they had drilled down to exactly 12,262 meters. That is over 12 kilometers straight down into the Earth's crust. It is just a massive testament to human engineering and pure stubborn determination.
But down there, they hit an invisible, completely impenetrable wall, 220 degrees Celsius. This crushing, boiling temperature is what absolutely broke the project. Yeah, this crushing heat is exactly what stopped them cold. Well, stopped them hot, I guess. Scientists had originally calculated that the temperature would only rise by about 11 degrees Celsius for every kilometer they dug. But man, that assumption was dead wrong. In reality, the heat skyrocketed at 24 degrees Celsius per kilometer. So when they passed that 12-kilometer mark, it was a staggering 220 degrees. And at that kind of heat, the rock starts acting less like rock and more like plastic. The drill bits simply began to melt. Combine this impossible technical challenge with the political collapse of the Soviet Union, and the drilling was officially shut down in 1992.
But it wasn't all bad news. Let's look at secrets of the deep, scientific treasures.
Because even though they didn't reach the center, not even close, what they pulled out of that hole completely rewrote the science books. This was not a failure at all. It was an absolute treasure trove of bizarre discoveries. First off, scientists found water at depths where everyone thought it was literally impossible. And it hadn't just seeped down from the surface. It was actually formed by highly unusual chemical reactions directly inside the rocks. Crazy, right? Even wilder, they found fossilized microscopic bacteria that were 2 billion years old. 2 billion! Somehow surviving those extreme pressures and heat. They also discovered deep, completely inaccessible deposits of gold and huge pockets of high-density methane gas. Literally overnight, our entire understanding of the Earth's makeup just shifted.
Now, of course, we have to talk about the well-to-hell myth. Because, with any project this strange and this secretive, rumors are just bound to start. Have you ever heard the spooky internet legends about the deepest hole on Earth? The most famous one actually started as an April Fool's joke.
The rumor claimed that scientists lowered a highly heat-tolerant microphone down into that 12-kilometer hole and actually recorded terrifying, agonizing sounds, the supposed, quote, screaming sounds of hell. Some people even theorized this terrifying discovery was the real, covered-up reason the project was shut down in the first place.
So, the crucial point is, none of that is true. It is completely debunked. The scientists made it very, very clear that no microphone was ever lowered into the borehole. The only acoustic data they recorded were deep seismic, explosion-like sounds from the shifting earth beneath them, nothing even remotely resembling human screams. So, it's a super fun campfire story, but yeah, strictly a myth.
Which brings us to our final section, a humbling perspective.
Let's just zoom out for a second and look at what this all means for humanity on a planetary scale. Think about the Mariana Trench, located near the Philippines. It's the deepest natural trench in our oceans, plunging down nearly 11,000 meters. The Kola Superdeep Borehole actually went deeper into the crust than the deepest, darkest depths of our oceans. Think about that. Human engineering physically outdug nature's most extreme abyss.
But 6,370 kilometers. That is the actual distance from the surface of the Earth to its core. Think about that scale for a second. We pushed our absolute technological limits, melted our drills, spent literally decades digging, and we got 12 kilometers. We needed to go over 6,000.
It's been said that digging 12 kilometers down when the core is 6,370 kilometers away is truly like just scratching the sand on a beach. It was an absolutely incredible leap in understanding our crust, yet we barely pierced the very outermost skin of the planet we call home. And despite further attempts by others since then, no one has managed to go deeper.
Which leaves us with this final, thrilling thought. If merely scratching the surface, just 12 kilometers down, gave us 2 billion-year-old extreme life forms, chemically synthesized water, and totally unexpected temperatures that literally broke our machines, what ancient, incredible secrets are still hiding in the remaining 6,358 kilometers below our feet? The Kola Superdeep Borehole might be sealed, but the mystery of what's truly beneath us is really just beginning. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning what's right under your feet.